Here we're going to review remote span. Functionally, remote span and span are the same. They'll both take packets from some source, copy them over to a destination, at which point you likely have some sort of network analyzer, or maybe a IDS or something like that connected to it. So it'll take the packets from a source and copy them to a destination. The difference between span and remote span is that the source and destination that you're monitoring aren't on the same switch, so it could be anywhere. Which is convenient because you might be wanting to monitor something that's nowhere near you, and you could just connect up your sniffer to wherever you're at and configure remote span to span or copy the traffic from a source on a different device or a different switch over to where you just connected your sniffer in. So like I said, functionally they're the same. The only difference is that the source and destination will be on a different switch. So here we'll just quickly configure it. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the traffic, or we want to monitor, let's just, something's going on with PC1. So we want to monitor traffic going in and out of PC1. So our source will be our gig 105, and our sniffer is sitting on gig 102. So our source will be here, and our destination is here. Okay? So we'll start and we'll configure switch 1 first. First thing you have to do is specify a remote span VLAN. So in order to do remote span, you have to create a special separate VLAN just for that span traffic. So we'll do that. VLAN 50. That's just what I made it. And then we have to tell it that it is a remote span VLAN. Okay. You could also name it so that you'd remember. Right? Oh, it doesn't like that whoops. There we go. Doesn't like that space, which makes sense. So now we named it. We created it here. We don't have to name it. I just did. So then when you exit back, let's do a show VLAN brief. Let me get this out of your way. Now I should see. And now too, when I look at my table, it's pretty easy here because I have all the default VLANs. I went with a very simplistic topology, but right away I can see which VLAN is handling my span traffic. All right, so that's up. Now all we have to do is tell it what its source and destination is. So monitor session 1. Our source is this gig 105. So interface j1/0/5. Okay. Whoops. And our destination is going to be our span VLAN. Okay. So our destination. So it's going to take the traffic from gig 5, copy it over onto our remote span VLAN, VLAN 50, which will be VLAN 50. Monitor session 1. Destination, to tell it that it's a remote VLAN, because remember we can't have a destination of just a local VLAN also. So we tell it it's a remote VLAN, and our remote VLAN is 50. Okay. Now if we do a show monitor, should have gotten rid of that earlier. Show. We see that we have a remote source session of spanning running. Our source ports going both directions. Transmit and receive is 105, and our destination VLAN is 50. So now we'll go ahead and we'll go over to switch 1. I'm just going to, or switch 2, sorry. I'm just going to telnet over to it real quick. Telnet. And I put an IP address of 192.168.1.5 on VLAN 1 for switch 2. No particular reason. Again, this is just so that I can telnet over there real quick so I can manage it. Right? All right, so again, we have to configure our span VLAN. Has to be the same on both sides. So your span VLAN has to match all the way through. VLAN 50. Tell it remote span. And then we can name it. There. So now we've created the VLAN. I'll do show VLAN brief. Oh, no, we didn't create it. And the reason why we didn't create it is VLANs aren't created until you actually exit out. So we have to exit out, and now we can do show VLAN brief. There you go. Now it's there. Now we can go ahead and configure monitoring. So monitor session 1. Now these monitor session numbers could be different. For the same session, they have to be the same, but on the remote switches for RSPAN, they don't have to be the same. As long as I'm linking my source and destination, meaning is if I wanted to use 2 here, I'd use 2 for my source and 2 for my destination. But I'm not going to. Monitor session 1. This time, my source, I'm going to take the traffic from my remote VLAN. Right? So monitor session 1, source, remote VLAN 50. Okay, and then monitor session 1, and I'm going to copy it to where my sniffer is, located. So I'm going to copy it over to gig 102. So in this case, then it's going to be interface GI1/0/2. Hit enter, and then we can exit out. If we do a show monitor, we see that we're all configured for a remote session. Our source is VLAN 50, so it's going to. So basically, switch 1 is going to take traffic going in and out of gig 105, and it's going to place it in VLAN 50. That traffic will traverse the network to get to the other switch, or switch 2. Switch 2 then takes that traffic off of VLAN 50 and then sends it out to, or copies it to gig 102 where our sniffer is sitting. So we're pretty much done. We could just verify that it works by pinging through gig 105. So I pulled my Wireshark over, and if I ping, I should now see that. So I went on another device and I just pinged through to this 1.1. So I have actually just another host over here, just as my traffic host. For traffic, should have pulled up my pen instead of that, but and I just pinged through here, and that traffic then was copied to my sniffer. So that's it. We're done. That's remote span.